what is testing? What are the types of testing in Node? Testing meaning you already know. Testing is the process of verifying the software functionality. Here it is written and you know it. Now let's explore at a very high level what are the types of testing we have. Okay, and this testing is not just with Node but with any project. So in testing we have two categories. First is functional testing and second is non-functional testing. Functional testing means we will test the application's functionality. Okay, application functionality. Non-functional testing is like testing the performance, the security, non-functional things. Okay, so again in functional testing category we have five types of testing. So now we are going to talk about the main types. Functional and non-functional are categories. They are not the actual testings. Okay, now listen carefully. First is unit testing, which means testing small parts of your applications like small functions of the code and making sure that those functions are working correctly. Okay, then we have the integration testing, which means testing how different functions and modules of your applications are working together. Remember, working together, that is integration testing. Then system testing means testing the entire application main flow from the user's perspective. See, so here you do not have to test each and every function, each and everything, but the main flow. Okay, the high level flow. Okay, that should be working fine as per this testing. And we also call it end-to-end testing, smoke testing, sanity testing. So all are almost same. Great. Then we have the user acceptance testing, which means testing by specific and real users. Okay, so this is the last testing and it happens just before the production deployment. Great. And after this there is one more testing and that we call regression testing. So basically regression means when you have implemented a new functionality in your application, then your manager will ask you to do the regression testing. So basically he will ask you to check the impacts of your functionality changes by checking the other functionalities that all of them are working fine or not. So that is very critical and important. Might be your functionality will break other functionalities, right? So that is regression testing. Great. These were the types of the functional testing. And then we have the non-functional testing. We have first the performance testing, where we basically test how the application is performing under the maximum load. So you will send 1,000, 10,000 requests to your application and maybe it will break. Okay, so that is the testing you have to do. Then security testing means for vulnerabilities like, sorry for the vulnerabilities pronunciation. Okay, and security flaws like SQL injection or XSS attacks. So those things you have to check under this security testing. Basically you have to try to hack your own application. Okay, great. This is the whole story. I think I have covered all the types of testing, and here I have also given a very short and simple description of each and every type of testing, so that your last minute preparation just before the interviews will be very quick and fast. Okay, everything is here for the revision. What are testing frameworks? The answer is testing framework are the tools that helps in writing and executing tests to your code. Now there are many testing frameworks, tools, and the top 5 are Mocha, Jest, Jasmine, AVA, and Chai. And I will give you some idea about the Jest testing framework in an upcoming questions. And you do not have to know all of them. Even I even don't know. But I think most of them are same because yes, testing frameworks are almost same in different technology. But yes, we will try to explore the jest out of these. How to create unit test using jest framework? Very important question. And I will show you very simple and easy to understand way of writing unit test by using the jest framework. Okay, so you remember that unit testing means what? Testing the smaller function or modules of the application, right? That is the objective. Now, for example, suppose you have a function like this that is adding two integers. Okay, now you want to write unit test for this code that can for unit test code which can test this function. Okay, so for that, first we will install the jest testing framework by using this command. Okay, now npm install jest, and this save dev means here that this framework is only for the development environment. Okay, that will never move to the production environment, because unit testing code has no role in production environment. It is just for the testing in the development, right? Now we will create a separate test file like this, math.test.js. Here first import the sum function from the below math file. Okay, now listen carefully. First we will use the describe function of jest framework like this. The describe function is a way to group related tests together, meaning all the test methods of the sum function will be written inside this description function only. Okay, for example, this description function will contain all test functions of this sum functions which we created, and if there is a minus or multiply function, then we have to create another describe function for them. Okay, now here the first parameter is the description and the second parameter will contain the actual test methods. This is our first test function which will test some of the function whether 1 plus 2 equal to 3 or not. Again, the first parameter is the description and the second parameter is the testing logic. Now this is very important. For testing, first we arrange the data and the content which is required for testing. So here we have arranged two variables with values 1 and 2. And you can also say that arranging is like setting the input parameters of the function. Okay, if you see the real function, there are input parameters and that we are setting here. After arranging, second important step is act, meaning we will call the actual sum function with the parameters that we arranged above. Okay, and store the result in this result variable, right? Now the last step is assert, meaning verifying the output of the function that we are testing. Okay, so for that we will use the expect function of this jest framework, and here we will pass the above result as the parameter, and then further we will call this to be function, and we will check whether the result is equal to 3 or not. Okay, that's it. If the result above is true, that means our function is tested and working properly, and therefore this test will be passed. And if it is not true, then the test is failed. And similarly we can add here more test functions also for. Okay, so for example, more test functions means like you can use the negative values in the arranged data and test your sum function in a different way. So that is will be your second text function. Okay, great, that's it. Finally, if you will run the test function by using this npx jest math.test.js command, then here you will show the result. One test is passed, and yes, that's all about it. Great. I tried my best, and I hope this testing approach is very much clear to you. And also here I have written the 5 steps for the testing in case you want to revise them just before your interviews and have a better understanding of them. How to write code for unit testing, explain AAA. You already know the 80% of the answer, and here is the code which I already explained. But why I am covering this triple A approach again and separately? Because maybe you are using a different framework other than just for unit testing, okay? And maybe then these describe and expect functions are not there. Yes, that is a possibility. But this triple A approach, arrange, act, assert, will be there. Okay, it's a very common base and foundation of unit testing. And in interviews also, mostly they ask how to do unit testing. If they ask, then basically you have to explain this triple A approach. The tools, frameworks, that even if you say can't say, that's fine. So here you should know arrange means preparing everything needed for the test. For example, setting the data, mock objects, arrange the data. So basically which are required by the function which has to be tested. Okay. Then act means to call or perform the function with the data. Okay, very simple, clear. Finally, assert means to check if the result matches the expected outcome or not. Great. Okay, if you missed any of my words, then here I have written the same thing in a very simple and easy language, and it can help you in revising the things. Okay. What is test driven development, TDD? In short, the answer is here. TDD is a software development approach where tests are written before the actual implementation code. Okay, so what does it mean, right? Writing test before the code? So basically, I will tell you in 3 steps. First, we write the test methods in this approach. Okay, and here before actual method and the implementation code, we are first creating the test methods, and there we will define the expected behavior. Okay, but obviously these test methods will fail because the actual methods are still not there, right? So in the second step we will write the actual code for these methods. Okay, and basically now we will try to pass the test one by one by writing the minimum code in the methods, in the actual methods, and to pass the tests. That is the purpose. That's why we call it test driven. Okay, then we run the test and validate the new code. So that is slightly reverse process. Okay, and yes, then we can like refactor the code and repeat the steps by making sure the first thing, and that is passing the test all the time, because tests are the functionality and that must work as expected. That is the main objective, right? The application. Great. That is the very good idea of the test driven development. What is WebSocket? How to create a real-time chat application? The answer is hidden in the question itself. WebSockets are used to create the real-time chat application. Okay, so here I will give you the example how to create. Here is a sample chat application. Okay, now in a normal HTTP web-based application, a user will I will show you like this. A user will send the HTTP request to the server, and from there the response will come, right? You know it. Again, the user will send the request again, receive the response, and so on and so on. So that is a sequence, right? But here in the chat application, when you are sending the message, then the person on the other side can also send the message at the same time. Remember, at the same time, meaning the data is flowing in both direction at the same time. Therefore, we need some other mechanism other than the HTTP, normal HTTP. Okay, and here like this, it is like a WebSocket mechanism. Okay, in HTTP, one request is going and the response is coming, right? But in a chat application, by using the WebSocket, users from both the sides can send the data or the messages at the same time like this. Now here one user is sending from here and another is sending from the other side of the server, although I have not shown you the second user, but that is how it works. And server role is, it is continuously passing the messages between them. Okay, clear? That is the process, that is WebSocket. And finally I have written the same thing about the WebSocket which I have already explained, but things like this can help you in the revision.